Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. Delighted as always to be joined by Lukey and his friend Sean, I believe is going to be joining us as well. Lukey, it's been a little while. Good to see you again. Hope you're good. Um, just seen OLEKSANDR Usyk defeat Tyson Fury. Second time of asking. All scorecards were exactly the same, which is kind of nice, refreshing to see in this controversial sport that we all love. 116, 112, all to Usyk. Um, I want to talk about a couple of things with you guys. Won't be too long, but yeah, your thoughts on the fight, please.
I mean, I thought it was a high quality fight. As I told my friends, I'm glad I spent the evening with them. It's probably a fight I'm not going to remember for the rest of my life, but it's a historic fight. I think this is the end of a certain era of the heavyweight division, and it was a meaningful fight. I do think the right fighter won. The scores felt wide. It felt like a 115, 113 victory. For Usyk, it felt like Fury got tired later in the fight, but I think it was what it was. Mr. Sean, what do you think that you saw?
I think, and I really didn't understand it until the fight was over and they showed the stats. So Tyson threw more punches, considerably more punches, landed less, and that always gives you a funny look. It kind of gives you a funny idea how the fight's going. It's hard to judge the fight when you got one guy throwing more shots but landing less. It kind of gives you that illusion of maybe it's either closer than it is, or maybe the guy that's throwing more shots is winning the fight. I've been in the fight game for a lot of years, 50 years, but I've never been a very good judge. I've always been a terrible judge. But so, yeah, in my opinion, I kind of like Fury, just maybe a little teeny bit. But again, he threw more shots, he landed less as much, and on the box count. It's an interesting fight though, and I kind of agree with Luke. Probably won't remember it in a few months from now, but
Disaster.
it's always enjoyable to watch for me
Mm.
a real scientific boxing match. And I think that's what we got tonight. I think we got a scientific boxing match. It
Mm.
wasn't a barn burner. It wasn't a slugfest. Scientific match. They're always fun to watch. They pick away at each other and show their great talent. It was an enjoyable fight, but I'll agree with Luke. I won't remember it as one of my top 10 fights of all time.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Like I think the first fight was such an entertaining fight back in May, and we didn't get that tonight, but maybe it's a bit like watching a film. A lot of the time the sequel's just not going to be as good, and that's kind of what it felt like tonight. Do you this I don't know what kind of network provider you guys watched the fight on. I personally watched it on TNT Sports here in the UK. Frank Warren is very unhappy about the scorecards. He's done a couple of TV interviews. He's clearly quite angry. Thinks Tyson Fury won the fight. Thinks that it was impossible to only give Tyson Fury 4 rounds. Just your guys' thoughts on that. Like if I said to you guys, I had Fury winning, I had it kind of a draw. What would your guys' thoughts on the actual scorecards?
I think it's a perception fight, right? So I think you can see a lot of different things in this. These rounds were very, very close, and if you saw Fury being the bigger man landing the punches, I think that's what kind of made it kind of forgettable for me was I think both guys thought they were winning the fight. So there wasn't that sense of urgency late in the fight. And for me also, I think the other thing that I saw was it's the type of fight, and we get this a lot on Pro Box TV, where I watch a lot of fights. We get fights where both guys think that they won the fight. And I think that it's going to be hard for Fury, I think, mentally to get back from this place because I think he put so much emotion into it. You saw it in his post fight that he put everything in. He thought he won the fight and he didn't win the fight. And I'm just not sure how much you can do after giving that much to the sport.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And just want to touch on really what you guys think both fighters are going to do next. Both fighters of a certain age now. Um, Fury 36, Usyk kind of nearly 38. We'll start with Usyk, the champion. But do you think he's going to fight again? Because he's completed boxing, right? Dubois got in the ring afterwards, but Usyk's beaten Dubois. There's other big fights out there where it's kind of Martin Piccoli, the winner of Jean Caballel. Um, But what do you think is going to happen next for Usyk, if anything?
I mean, if he fights again, he'll fight a really big money fight that is impactful for his wallet and fun for us as boxing fans, right? He's got nothing to prove, and if he comes back, it's going to be really really fun because he's got a Hall of Fame career, and to me, he's a top five all time heavyweight. For Fury, I think he comes back to fight Joshua, and I think it's a weird fight because if you look at the narrative leading into that fight, they're both in a weird place where they're superstar boxers, but they're dealing with demons now. So I think for Usyk, he's kind of on this legacy component where he just goes and fights fights that are meaningful to his legacy. Whereas Joshua, I think, is going to maybe fight, or not Joshua, Fury's either going to fight Joshua or maybe even a Wilder fourth fight or something. It'll be those type of fights with kind of older champions that have hit hard.
Yeah, for sure. We'll have to see. I think that many people would maybe possibly quite like to see Usyk retire now because he's maybe not got much else to prove. At the same time, it's a fantastic time to be a heavyweight boxer from a financial point of view. And that's why I personally think we're going to see Usyk, Fury, and Joshua fight on because there's big money paydays for all of them, which maybe 5, 6 years ago there weren't. Same question about Tyson Fury, really. I think I personally I saw a diminished Tyson Fury. I've followed Tyson Fury's career for over 10 years. I saw a diminished Tyson Fury tonight. I think he's an old 36. I personally would be quite happy to see him retire, but yeah, what's your opinion, Lukey?
Don't do. I saw diminished both guys. I thought both guys weren't the same. I thought Usyk was slower. I thought me and my buddy Sean right here, we saw the fast hands of Fury, but his feet are gone.
Yeah,
So his feet aren't able to hold the weight up. With Fury, I just see a guy that can't really do what he used to do. And with Usyk, I see a guy who can still do what he did, but he's just not as elusive and he's not as fast. I really saw two guys that are really at the end of their career, but they're friggin' great. That's what I saw.
yeah, yeah, for sure. And like, I think it shouldn't be forgotten what Tyson Fury's achieved. The Klitschko fight, the Wilder fight, coming back from severe mental health problems and physical health problems as well. Um, but we'll see. We shall see what happens. Final question for me. Everyone tomorrow is of course going to be talking about what's next. Who's this guy going to fight next? The main name for on everyone's lips for Tyson Fury is going to be Anthony Joshua. We've been talking about that fight for a number of years now. It's still a big fight. Maybe not the fight it was, but it's still a big fight. If that fight happens, what do you think the result would be?
I don't know, and that's why it should happen, right?
Mm,
When you don't know the outcome of a fight, it's typically a good one. And I think there's an interesting story arc there because now Fury has been kind of this guy that conquers. He's like a Conor McGregor like figure where he took on big challenges and overcome obstacles and stuff. And now Usyk's beaten him twice, and there's no real reason for a rematch, even if you thought it because of the scores. Joshua had that great run where everyone's like, okay, he's turned the corner, and then he gets his ass beat by Daniel Dubois. I think it's perfect for those two to match up because they're both in the same position of kind of like broken heavyweight boxers. That's kind of what I think. What do you think, Sean?
Yeah, I think this game has always been a game about who's marketable. And
mm,
I think AJ is still super marketable.
mm.
And I think Tyson Fury is still super marketable. And I think that at the end of the day, who's going to sell tickets? And some of your top 10 contenders are not selling tickets. And I think those two guys are going to sell tickets. I don't think Fury will walk away from the game right now. I think there's too much money out there. I think he still thinks, in my mind, that he's probably still as good as he's ever been. Whether he's not is, debatable. But yeah, I don't think Fury goes anywhere. I think he still has a couple of nice big fights left.
Mm.
And he'll go back to training camp. They'll say, "Hey, let's drop another 20 pounds. You'll get your legs back, and you'll be like you were when you were 28."
Yeah, still a massive fight, and I'm sure you could still paint Fury and Joshua as still kind of top five, top heavyweights who unfortunately just can't beat Alexander Usyk, but would still be a big fight. So look,
I
if
want
they
to add to that. I think that if Fury loses weight, he's going to be really diminished. because I just don't. I think if he overtrains because to get down the weight, he damaged his body ballooning up in weight and doing drugs and stuff. And I think that if you start messing with that stuff, you get into real trouble. So though I love my friend Sean, if he goes down in weight, which I don't even think he was saying it's a good thing, but if you see a Tyson Fury at like 255, 250, I think that I would have some real concerns because I think his chin is starting to go. Not bad, but I think that his ability to take a punch was some of his brilliance in his best fights. And some of these fights were, I think he's losing rounds just based on looking as though a big shot affected him.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Don't want to take up too much more of your time. I know you guys have probably got afternoons to get on with. Obviously, it's got a couple of days before Christmas. I'm sure things are busy. But yeah, it was great to catch up with both of you. Lukey, as always, welcome on the channel. Sean, good to meet you as well. And we will hopefully speak again in 2025. Thank you both very much for your time.
Thank you.
Right on.
Thanks, guys.